Good morning and welcome to another video. In today's video I've been asked by Phoenix Art Materials to review their canvases. That's quite exciting. So they look very nice. I'm looking forward to reviewing these, and what they've also sent me to use on them is their water-soluble oil sticks. Very exciting. So let's get on with the review. Phoenix Art Materials are sponsoring today's video, and these are going to be my honest and truthful thoughts on the review. So let's look at them. I'm looking really forward to this. Today's video is all about the canvases. I'm going to be reviewing the canvases, seeing what they feel like and what they are made like, and what they're like to paint on. But they have sent me these. I'll just show you quickly what they are. They're the water-soluble oil paint sticks. Hopefully at some point I'll do a review on these as well. But they've sent me these to try them out on the canvases, so that's quite exciting. I'll turn them that way up. So they look really exciting. I peeled one off yesterday, and yeah, I think they're going to be really nice to use. So you'll see what I do with them as we go along. But here we have the canvases, the star of today's show. So these are the Phoenix Art Canvas, and these are the artist range. They do a student range, a professional range, and an artist range. So these are, I would accept as the mid-range. They're 100% cotton, and they have a medium texture. Well, I haven't opened them yet, but that texture looks really nice and quite smooth, if I'm being honest. It says they are acrylic triple gesso primed. Now, I believe that these are primed with Phoenix Artist Materials gesso. They're patented gesso. So they've been triple primed, so that's pretty good. I mean, generally, I've been in a position when I've used canvases, which isn't that often, but I've been in a position where I've had to actually put gesso on them. So looking at these, they look as if you could just get straight on with painting, so that looks quite good. And they say they are acid free and suitable for oil. What acid free means is that it prevents the canvas yellowing and discoloration. According to their website, you can also use these, although it doesn't say it on the actual canvas themselves, but you can also use these for acrylic, watercolour, gouache, pastels and tempera, and oil. And I would imagine probably a few other things, if I'm being honest. So that's pretty good. They've got all the AP and CE verified certifications, and they're non-toxic, and as I said, they are acid free. They have pine stretcher bars in them. We'll have a look at that in a second. But they're made with a mortise and tenon connection, which, I mean, I'm not a carpenter, but I believe that's a pretty good connection. So you wouldn't have any problems with the sturdiness of these, I wouldn't have thought. And they're stretched tightly onto the bars and back stapled to create clean edges. And they're tough enough for impasto and acrylic pouring, apparently. So sorry about the reflections in there. I hope you can see that okay. So it says all that on here. It says back stapled, 11 ounce triple primed, acrylic painting, free suitable for oil. All of that on the actual label. Let's open them up, shall we? And have a look. Wow, this is the moment of truth. So I'm just going to get that palette knife that's inside the oil painting sticks. I'm not going to take all of the cellophane off because I like to keep them clean on the edges if I can. So I'm cutting round the top one, so I can just take the top one off. There we go. And that's the top one. Oh! Wow! I didn't expect that. Each individual canvas is actually cellophaned itself. That's a bonus. That really is a bonus. So I can get rid of all this packaging now and know that each one of these are going to be kept safe. And I've noticed also that they're actually packed face to face, which is another great touch from Phoenix. So they're not going to get damaged in any way. That is excellent. I'm pretty chuffed with it. It's them little touches that make all the difference, isn't it? So I'm going to open the one up without the label on it. So there we go. I must admit that compared to the canvases I've used in the past, these do feel high quality. Now, that texture is rough but smooth. It's got a texture on it, but it's a very close-knit woven texture, and that feels really very nice. I can feel that they're very tightly stretched onto the bars, and if I turn it over, I'm not going to lay it down, you can see they're uniformly stapled, and you can see that they're all cut and finished properly, and you can see the mortise and tenon joints there. Now the back is nice and smooth, kind of a little tiny bit furry, but that's nice. These are really good quality. And what I like about these is, in the main I've been working with canvas boards, but what I like about these is the thickness of the stretcher bars. I don't like the canvases I've used before that seem very loose because they have thin stretcher bars, thin and deep. Now that's the other thing I like about these, is the fact that these are only actually about 3/4 of an inch deep, so that's really nice. I don't like the very deep canvases, if I'm being honest, but these are very nice. Wow, I'm very impressed with them, and I'm not just saying that because I'm sponsored for this video. I'm saying that because I mean it. So please take that as a recommendation. Yeah, very nicely finished. Nice texture to them. They feel really very quite nice. What a silly thing to say. They feel quite nice. Very nice, in fact. Let's see how an oil stick will go onto this, shall we? So I've peeled this red one, and basically that's an oil painting stick, and I'll review them at some point. So I'm just going to make a mark. Oh yes, nice. I'm not pressing hard. I could press hard like I'm doing there. That's really nice. Wow. And I can spread that with my fingers. These canvases, I can already tell you, are a notch above, well, more than a notch above what I've ever used. And I've produced some pretty good paintings on them, haven't I? So I like the way that's smoothing into that. You get a lot of canvases that feel as if they've got like a waxy coating on them, and the oil pastels or paints or whatever they seem to slip a bit, but these are actually quite dry, and they've got a lovely texture to them. I like this. Wow, I feel that I'm going to get a really nice picture on these. I'm really looking forward to using one of these for a picture. That's an oil stick, and as you can see, that's kind of layered on there pretty good, hasn't it? Let's see what an oil pastel lays on it like, shall we? Happen to have a Montmartre, and it's the classic range, so let's see what that layers like. Again, that is better than any other canvas I've used for oil pastel paintings. I think these are going to be really good for an oil pastel painting. And I think you're going to get lots of layers on as well. Nice. That's the canvas. I'm going to do a picture, and you can see with the oil sticks and with the canvas what this is going to come out like. I think one thing I do need to do, and I'm going to do that now, is to find a paintbrush somewhere. An artist without a paintbrush. That's clever, isn't it? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some water on the canvas and see what that's like. These are really nice. So I'm going to use the water-soluble oil pastel. Wow, look at that. Sorry, I should have said that I'm going to use the water-soluble oil stick, not oil pastel. Look, this is quite exciting and quite fun, I think. I'm looking forward to doing a picture and using water with the sticks. The water on this canvas is absolutely sitting there a treat and spreading out a treat. And the texture of the canvas is letting this oil stick blend out very nicely. It's no notches, no high sticky bits like you would find on perhaps some cold pressed papers. This is painting a treat. You could prime this with a colour quite easily. I'm very impressed with that. Very, very impressed. I'm really looking forward to doing a picture now. Can't stop playing with it now, look. Look at that. You can see if I do this lightly, you can see the text underneath, but this is filling it up a treat. It filled it up by blending with your fingers, and it also filled it up with water as well. That has opened up all sorts of possibilities. I have thought about using water-soluble oil paint sticks before, but I've never really found them at a reasonable price, and you need so many of them, of course, when you're doing a lot of fine art paintings. But these are really affordable, and they come in 20 colours. And in conjunction with these canvas panels, I think they are going to open up a whole world of possibilities. I really do. This is absolutely tremendous. I love how that is sitting on there and it's filled up the canvas, and that is sitting on there a treat. I personally, at this point, would definitely buy more of these canvases. They are the best canvas I have used so far. So I'm just going to try a little bit of acrylic on the canvas just to see what that feels like. We try it in a watered down state, as if I was putting on the early layers. Similar colour to that. Yeah, that's nice. Very nice, in fact. You wouldn't need a lot of water on this canvas to do this. And you'd quickly get a coverage. Look at that. So let's try it in a quite a light bodied acrylic, but we'll try it in more of a firm state. Oh, that's going on there beautiful. That really is, for me, this is a step above anything I've used so far by a long chalk. That really is beautiful. I love the texture of these. Wow. I think I'm going to have to get some more. I would really like to try the larger size. I really would. These are superb. Wow. I'm really impressed. I never expected I would be, if I'm being perfectly honest. I thought to myself, you know, canvas is a canvas is a canvas. But these are just completely different to anything I've seen before. I'm not very experienced with canvases, it has to be said, but these are completely different. The canvas boards and canvases that I have used have had quite a slippery texture on them straight out of the packet, but this has got more of a drier texture. But when you put the paint on, you can feel that there is that texture there to be able to smooth out your paint. And this being a medium texture canvas is actually still quite smooth in comparison to what I've used before. I really do like this, and they feel exceptional quality and they look very, very good. I think these are a cut above at the moment for me, and I'm not just saying that because Phoenix is sponsoring me. I'm saying that because that's what I'm feeling. I'm really quite excited about these. So I'm going to let that dry so we can see how it dries up. I think we should do a picture, don't you? So I've sketched my picture out. I don't believe in making life easy for myself, and it's a small canvas, it's an 8x10, and it's a detailed picture, and I only have 6 colours. So let's see what we can do, shall we? Firstly, I'm going to spray my pencil sketch with some fixative just so I don't lose it. Just a light dusting of that. I just don't want to lose what I've got. I'll let that dry. And now I'm going to take the skin off these oil sticks. And I do that. I would start here first, but I would lean it on something first. So I've got an old scrappy piece of paper. You can see where I've already done the white. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to lean it on its side, and I'm going to take off a thin sliver of the angled edge. So I'm taking off as little as I can so I don't waste any product. So that's that. And then I'm going to skim the edges off the pastel like this. And I've just made a mistake there. You can see what will happen if you go too far. But I'll keep that and I'll dissolve that in water. So just don't press too hard. Just take a slither off. You can see here where the colour's changed, and you can feel how the texture changes as well. You can sharpen that up as much as you like or as little as you like. And the one thing you do need to do is to just take off that edge. So, and then give it a test. And there we go. One thing you do need to do is to just make sure you clean your palette knife or your knife off, whatever you're using. Got some oil on that one. If you can see that there, bubbles of oil. So that needs to come off. Cut a slither and then cut the edges or the outsides. Like cutting through butter. With these being so soft, it is very easy to go too far when you're doing this. Last one. feel that edge here is a bit hard. So I can come up that way and just pick that edges off. These will dry again, but they'll take a while. And that one's done. Okay, and if you want, you can smooth them all out. I'm just giving them a wipe with a tissue.